All right, so we'll get started here. Hi everyone, my name's Eric. I am the demo technician with Bobcat. I normally do the demonstrations of the software program to potential customers. I also do training sessions, so you can book 1 or 2 hour sessions at a time. I can help you go through any part file that you have, any drawing, go through creating the CAD geometry of it in Bobcat, and also creating the toolpath for your specific machine. And yeah, I wear many hats here, doing the demonstrations, doing the training sessions. I'm part of tech support, so I answer any questions that you guys have if you call in with tech support. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m., 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can call in with that phone number we have in the comments section, and we can answer anything that you have inside of the software program here. And yeah, we'll be taking a look today here in the webinar to do Bobart, and that is going to be down here at the bottom left corner of your screen, or of my screen that you can see here. This tab, Bobart, you can load an image, you can emboss to create a 3D model. A lot of cool stuff here that we'll be going over today. If you can't find Bobart inside of Bobcat of your software program, it may be hidden, it may have been closed out for whatever reason. You can always open and close these tabs by right-clicking at the top of your screen in Bobcat and opening or closing any of these tabs here. So if I didn't want Bobart, didn't want the CAD tree, CAM tree, and all this stuff, I can X out all of these windows at any time. Maybe if I want a larger CAD workspace here to work with. And then I can right click, and any of the ones that are open have a green check mark, so I can reopen some of these, maybe open the layers especially, open the Bobart specifically there. Yeah, so that's how you open Bobart if it's closed out. We can go to the tab here at the bottom, Bobart, and right click on images, the second option down. And this is where we can load an image. So whether it's a JPEG file, a PNG, any type of file format that's on your computer, you can open it here in the Bobart page and load it in. If it's an image that it's not supported here in Bobart, you can always maybe take a screenshot on your computer of the image with snipping tool. That's a basic Windows function here, or Windows program. You just click on the start button that you see on the bottom here. You can just type in snipping tool, and that's where you can create a screenshot for any image you have that you may want to save as a JPEG or a PNG file. It saves as one of those formats. Also, you have an option to open PDF files as well. If you right click on the top option here, Bobart Manager, you can go to the bottom here, load vector files. So if I click on load vector files, you can see the file format options we have in this one here. Vector files are EPS. I've never run into those, but the other two, AI for Adobe Illustrator, and PDF files. So if you've got a print, you can open a PDF file here and it'll bring in the geometry this way as well, as long as it's a vector file. So we'll go to loading the image here by going to Images, right-clicking, and Load Image. David, your question, Bobart is licensed and sold separately. No, it's not sold separately from Bobcat CAM. It is in addition to your license. So yeah, good question to get started here. If we go to File and then Help, right down at the bottom here, you'll see Show License Status. And this is where you can see what's on your license that you've paid for already. I've got the latest and greatest with everything here, my license with 5-axis milling, mill turn, all this good stuff. You can see down here towards the bottom, this checkbox for Bobart is checked. If it is checked, you've paid for it on your license. If it's not, you can always call your account manager and see what the difference is to add that to your license if you need to. So from here, we'll go to, I'm going to bring over my, what is this called? Google Chrome. I'm going to drag this box for Google Chrome over to show you what images we have in store for us today. I just went to Google Chrome, went to Google, and I Googled Eagle clip art black and white. I found this guy right here, just right clicked on it and save image as, and I saved it as a JPEG file. So we'll be working on this one today. In another tab, I went and typed in Google dog images, and I found this one right here, right clicked on it and went to save image as. The only main thing that I really wanted to focus on with these images, in terms of selecting them, I just wanted to make sure that these are clean images in terms of good quality images here. If it's a little too blurry, too pixelated, and you bring it into Bobart, it's not going to give you a great vectorization, or it's not going to trace around the pixelated image as easily as you may want. So make sure you find a clean, sharp image in Google. It might not be the first try there, but if you keep Googling different images, you'll be able to find a clean image to bring into Bobart here. We can go to Bobart and we'll right click on images. We'll go to load image, and here I have it named Eagle at the top, and it gives me the preview here. I can click open, and it brings in the image here at a certain size, however the size is saved from Google. And right now it's at 1.196 inches. I can change the numbers here. I think I did 8 by 8. So you can see I typed in 8 in the X size and hit tab. It automatically updated the Y size to 8 as well. The reason for that is because you can see this checkbox above the X and Y sizes, keep aspect ratio. So it will keep the ratio between X and Y sizes so that the image doesn't stretch on us. If I did want the image to be taller, for example, I can uncheck that box and I can make it 8 by 12 if I wanted to. But then you can see it's distorted, so that's why we normally keep the aspect ratio there. We can also now, in the newer versions of Bobart, in our newest version of Bobcat, you can see on the left-hand side, you can change UCS. So you can change your coordinate system. We're sketching on a top view today, but if you wanted to, we can revolve it around. We can sketch it on a front view. We could sketch it on a side view, or any other UCS that you create, so that if you wanted this logo on the side of your part, you could project it onto the side very easily here in Bobart as well. Pretty cool stuff. So once I bring it in, it's going to be, I'm going to have this image as 8 by 8, and I click OK from there. And then it brings in my image. I'm not able to really modify it at all after this unless I double click on image Eagle over here on the left hand side. If I go into my select mode, can't double click on the image, I can't drag anything, select anything here until I vectorize it. So what I do on the left hand side in Bobart, I right click on image Eagle, go to vectorize, and here you can see it gets a little blurry. And the reason for that is on the left-hand side here, this threshold value. And so I can move this slider bar over, or I can type the number. It's anywhere between 0 and looks like 256 with this threshold value. Basically what it's doing here when I'm moving the bar over, what it's going to do is it's going to, Bobcat is asking me how I want to vectorize it. Do I want to, if there was a background to this image, do I want to vectorize more of the foreground of the image, or do I want to vectorize more of the background of the image? Since this is just some basic image here, I'm just going to go towards the middle here where it has the cleanest. You can see it's a little pixelated there, but it does bring in a good vectorization, even though it's, not perfect. I just wanted somewhere between maybe around 200 here. because if I go too far to the left, it makes it a little thin there. And if I go too far to the right, it gets a lot more darker there. A lot darker. So I'll go somewhere around, we'll say 190, 192 there. And then I hit apply. It vectorizes it for me, and then I can hit OK. Now I can hide the image by right-clicking on Image Eagle over on the left-hand side and going to blank, unblank. There's also a shortcut key for that on my keyboard. I for image. It'll show the image and hide the image at any time. So this can be really helpful with this shortcut key, because if I zoom in and I see the drawing versus the image, we can see it's not perfect. So if I wanted to modify his beak here, maybe I can show the image to see where Bobart has left off, and then I can go in and modify it with the CAD functionality in BobCAD. So normally I go over to utilities, and these utilities are really helpful for a drawing after we've vectorized it in Bobart. We have drag corner and deform up here at the top in the middle of the screen here under utilities. If I click on deform, I can hide my image for a second, click on this line and deform it, moving the line over and changing it into an arc and changing the curvature of it. And I can see it gets a little choppy when I'm deforming it. It's either over here or over here. If I wanted to modify that, oops, have more of a freehand option, I'm going to move myself over so that you can see this option here. So over on the bottom right corner of BobCAD, you can see this snap increment option, icon of a magnet. You can turn that off, so it's not going to move every 1/16 of an inch. It's going to be more of a free-flowing option. And then also this use construction geometry and XY tracking. That's 2 over to the left from that magnet icon. And what that was doing is it was trying to track any perpendicular or vertical line that it was intersecting with at my mouse, so that it gave us, if I was trying to reference any of those points. I wasn't trying to do that, so I'm going to turn that off at the moment. And so now we've got the freehand option here. I'm going to move it a little bit over. That's our deform option. And then our drag corner on the top here. It's taking a second to load. Let me open it back up. Taking a second. So that was deform, and then drag corner will do just that. Let me try to move myself back over here. There we go. Okay. So back into the webinar file. We can go to our image, our drawing here from the image. And so that was under utilities, deform, and then right above it is drag corner. And it'll do just that if I wanted to click on a corner here and drag it over, move it over to however I want to move it to modify the drawing after the fact. Those are two really helpful options in our utilities to modify a drawing after we vectorized it from Bobart. We have a new option for entity modify. If I go to click on select mode again, go to select mode, double click on this arc here, it goes right into modifying the arc. So we've got our diameter and radius, and I can click on any of these either of these endpoints and drag it over or move the curvature of it as well here. So pretty useful stuff. From here, we're going to get into the CAM functionality that is added as part of the Bobart licensing, and then we'll get into 3D and 3-axis machining for Bobart as well. So the 2-axis stuff that Bobart offers, we start by, just as if we were going to create a new milling job, going to the top, going to CAM, starting a new job. Selecting our machine, so I'm just going to use the BC 3X mill, the Bobcat 3-axis milling machine. Click on Stock Wizard. I can define a workpiece if I have a finished 3D model. I can define the stock that I'm starting with. It's going to be 8 by 8. And from here, let's see, I want it right here. This is what I like about the Bobart vectorizing, is it has everything here in the first quadrant, so that when I have my stock lined up, my G54 work offset on the next page after my stock, my machine setup is going to be lined up automatically to that corner of the stock. So after machine setup, I'll click OK. And under this milling job, I right-click on machine setup and go to mill V-carve. Sort of down the line here, it's past mill 2-axis, past mill 3-axis, past mill threading, and mill 3-axis wireframe. It's right below that mill V-carve. That may be grayed out if you don't have Bobart. Again, it's added with the Bobart licensing. So I select mill V-carve, go to select geometry. I selected the whole drawing here and clicked OK. My next page, I think my total depth I went down to was 1/4 inch for my milling that I did for V-carve here that I created already. My next page, we have the machining strategy. The 2 operations that we offer in V-carve here, under available operations on the right, are tapered pocketing. So you can see that we'd be normally using a flat end mill and pocketing all of these flats out, and then come back with a finishing tool with V-carve finishing, a V tool to follow along the tapered walls. So normally it creates a V-carve finishing operation on the left-hand side here. I can add a tapered pocketing operation and move that up in the list of the milling operations. So we have pocketing and finishing here. Our next page, we can set a work offset number for G54 or G55, anything other than that. Then our next page, we can set up the tool, set up our spindle RPM, our cutting feed rate here, set up the parameters. Now we can set a depth of cut for our pocketing operation and set a percentage for our step over here under end mill cutter width percentage. So what's really interesting about the pocketing and the V-carve here is that it's not technically 2.5-axis machining, it's technically 3-axis, because it's going to follow the tapered walls. So it's going to move in X, Y, and Z along the tapered walls there. Our next page, we have MDI, manual data input, if I wanted to add any extra code here before or after an operation. And then setting up our V tool, setting the spindle RPM, cutting feed rate, all of those settings. And then also setting up the depth of cut and the step over for the V tool here. So I'm going to cancel out of this because I already have the V-carve operations created in my cam tree here. And I'm going to unblank the toolpath that we have. So yeah, it's machining, pocketing all of these areas and using a V tool on the insides here. Now, maybe for example, I wanted to do the opposite. If I wanted to mill inside here into this area of the beak and that area of the beak, for example, I can just reselect my geometry by going here under V-carve, double clicking. I can delete all of the selection and then just select, hold shift and chain select just the beak here, for example. But I'm gonna select all because it's gonna machine inside of these areas and avoid the other areas of the eagle there. What we can do first is we can backplot. So to take a look at this, with the stock showing, the drawing showing, and the toolpath showing, I can right-click on any of these operations under the feature. Let's go to V-carve finishing. I can right-click on that and go to backplot. And I can press play and view the tool following inside of the stock here using the V tool here. So yeah, I'm pretty sure this is going to be 3-axis technically, because when you follow the tapered wall into a corner and it goes down in Z, it can move in X and Y. So technically you'll have a little bit of 3-axis toolpath, 3-axis G code for your machine here with this V-carve operation. And we'll take a look at it in our simulation here by going to the top, clicking on Start Simulation. Based on the feed rate, I think we're at 20 inches per minute, 25. It says up at the top in our simulation that it'll take about 2.5 hours for the pocketing here and for the V-carve finishing here. So this is the pocketing with a flat end mill. And so it pocketed only what it could with a flat end mill. Not all of it here. Can't even really see the resemblance of an eagle yet until we get to the V tool. And that's going to clean up a bunch of stuff here. Sort of trace along the beak. So all of those are going to be tapered walls with the V tool. But yeah, thought we had a great couple of files here to look at, a couple of images. Father's Day just passed and 4th of July is coming around the corner, so we're going to look at an image of an eagle to do a V-carve like this, and then look at an image of a dog to be able to mill that out in a piece of wood, for example, like this here. So with this one, you can see if we're looking at it from an angle and zooming in. Oh, there we go. If I zoom in, we can see everything's flat. We're just using a flat end mill, pocketing down, and then using a V tool to create tapered walls. But on top here, it's all flat. We're going to get into having curved surfaces, so it'd be more like a relief than just the V carving here next with this image. Before we get started on that, let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments section. More than happy to answer anything that you have moving forward and looking at the V-carve that we saw here, and also the vectorizing, and now getting into embossing in Bobart. So let me know if you have any questions. More than happy to answer them here in the training session that we're doing live here today. So I'll close out a simulation. And I'll delete this V-carve. Well, no, I'll just blank it out. I'll blank out the first milling job that I was working on. And then we'll get into the second milling job after we create the 3D model of this eagle here. Now, of course, we have the Of course, we have the extrude boss option in the CAD functionality in BobCAD. If I go to the top and go to Create 3D, go to Extrude Boss, I can maybe select some of this inside geometry, the inside of the eagle, the beak, and then the outside profile, and I can extrude this out. And I could also maybe do tapered walls on the sides here with this draft angle. So if I had 2 degree, it doesn't like 2 degree tapered walls. It doesn't even like 1 degree. Let's try negative. Nope, doesn't like that either. The extrude is too thin here. But yeah, this is how we can create an extrude boss with straight walls or tapered walls here. But if I want more of like a relief, like as if you would see like in, I don't want to say pottery, but you know, as in some sort of artwork like that, you're getting into a relief, you know, stone cutting, things like that. We can create that as a 3D model and then machine that out. by first. So you can have the vectorization as the drawing here, or you could work on it with any drawing that you have. You could freehand a drawing and emboss it as a relief, or any kind of drawing that you have. You could import one, things like that. But it is in the Bobart section here. So if I go down to the bottom, go to Bobart, I can go to the left-hand side. You can see all of these things that I created in the emboss function already, and you can see it if I right-click on Emboss Model and blank or unblank. I'm going to unblank the emboss that I created, and this is what I've created so far. So some curved surfaces, either leaving it proud like this, it's about 1/4 of an inch tall above the stock that I created, or we could go in and create the opposite of it. So either this way, this is actually embossing it up, and then the other way is embossing it down. Oops, edit, I'll do, oh, did I do both of them subtract? Oops. Yeah, I can do both of them as subtract here. So there's add and subtract to either go above the stock or below the stock to create the negative of this model I wanted to create. We're going to take a look at how to do that once I get back to where I was at with the model here. There we go. Actually, I think I did that one as subtract. Nope, other way. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, cool. So this one is add, and then this one is subtract, so I can add to the stock and I can subtract from the stock as well. So I'm gonna, let's see, I don't think I can create a second emboss in Bobart. So what I'll do is I'll do it in a new file to start from scratch here. I just select the eagle. I went 8x8 for the size here to import the image. Again, I right-click on Image Eagle and go to Vectorize. I move the slider bar over to be able to vectorize or trace around the image automatically to a drawing. Once I click OK, I can blank out the image by clicking here in the workspace and hitting I as an image on my keyboard for a shortcut key to hide the image there, hide or show it at any time. I can right-click on Emboss Model over on the left side, and first we go to this option, Edit Canvas. I'm creating a piece of canvas, or I'm creating a piece of stock as a rectangular piece of stock here, and I'm making it 8x8 so that it goes around the eagle here. And down towards the bottom we also have base height. That's going to be the thickness of the stock of 1 inch here. Next, we can right-click on Emboss Model again, and we can go down to Emboss Regular. So that's the third option down. I can emboss exactly what I want to with the eagle here. If I wanted to emboss the outside profile like this here, I'll start with that. Just chain selecting all of the outside profile of the eagle. And down towards the bottom here, you can see the cross section, which this curvature right here is basically how we would look at it from the side of the stock. This is how it's going to be embossed. We have options for a convex arc, a concave arc, line, which is sort of like extrude boss, where it's just going to give you tapered walls, convex or concave ellipse, and you can see I can change the ellipse here, change the curvature of it. What I like to use is spline, because you have these 3 points here and you can change the curvature exactly to how you want. I want it more of a smoother transition here like this. And then I click OK down at the bottom. So this is just the emboss from the outside profile in towards the center. You can see that. And if I wanted to add more to it, I can right click on Emboss Model, and I can do an additional Emboss Regular. Again, I'm going to hide the emboss here to select my 2D wireframe geometry by hitting E as an emboss to show or hide the emboss at any time. Then if I wanted to add more to this inside of the eagle, I can just chain select that area. I can change the curvature of it here, and I can click OK. I think that just adds more to the emboss. Yep, you can see it just keeps adding and keeps adding. And if I wanted to subtract out the eye maybe, I can right click on Emboss Model, go to Emboss Regular, hide the embossment here by hitting I on my keyboard. I'm going to chain select just that outside profile of the eye. And to subtract from it, I go to the top, and we have these application types. These icons, if I hover over them, we've been just doing the add function so far. I'm going to click on subtract next to see what that looks like. Show the embossment again, and that's how that would look. So it's going to subtract from the top of the last addition. There's a couple other options in the Emboss Regular here. So we have add, subtract, we have merge high and merge low. Now merge high will merge all three of these embossments because they're all sort of intersecting each other, you could say. The merge high will merge all three of them together, and whatever the tallest one is, that's going to be what it's left with. If we went to merge low, it's going to keep the lowest amount. So it's going to drop down, and then it's going to emboss from the bottom of the stock up for the eyeball there. Now you can see once I'm zooming in with the eyeball, you can see once it drops down, these walls are really jagged. Something I wouldn't want to use an end mill. It would be really choppy to try to machine this out. We do have a smoothing tool for something like this. So if I right click on Emboss Model, we'll go down here towards the bottom, right above blank unblank, we have smoothing, and I can type the smoothing window size. So what this is basically is just the strength of the smoothing tool, and it's going to smooth all across the embossment right here. 0.05 is kind of weak. I usually set it to 0.1. 0.5 would probably be way too strong. 0.2 would probably be too strong, but we'll try that out. And you can see everything here is very smooth on the outside. And then inside in the eyeball, you can see everything's smooth as well here. Smoothed out pretty well. If I wanted to change it, I can always double click on the smoothing tool and change it to 0.1 rather than 0.2. And that's half of the strength of the smoothing tool. If I zoom into the eyeball, it's still pretty jagged, but better than it was. And I can always right click on one of these functions. If I didn't want to use the smoothing tool, I could highlight it, hit delete on my keyboard if I wanted to delete it out. If I wanted to turn it off temporarily, I can right click on it and suppress or unsuppress the function. Once I've suppressed it, it's grayed out. And at the top here, you can see this red X next to Emboss Model. What that means is it hasn't been updated yet. So I have to right click and regenerate. So now it's back to no smoothing tool there. Jim, did adding the additional emboss add stock to the top or suppress the original emboss? Yeah, good question. It did add to the original emboss. You can see from the side here, this is our first emboss, and then this is our second emboss that was added to it. If we go to each emboss down towards the bottom, we can set, so these are, so if we look at the graph here of the curvature, to the right is the width, so we're going across a ½ inch, and we're going up about 1/4 of an inch for each one. So this is about 1/4 inch up, and then over to the right, this is another 1/4 inch up. That's what the add will do. The merge high will merge both of them and just leave the tallest one. So if I went into my second regular emboss add, went to merge high, made the curvature of it here taller than my first one, it will only add it just a little bit of an amount, whatever is above that original emboss there. So yeah, it's looking a little funky now. So I'll go back to add with this one. I don't know what I'm doing yet. What I did with my emboss here is I will get rid of everything except for the first one here. So this first add, if I regenerate it, is where we're at now. I can change the geometry. So I'm going to double click on geometry here under the regular emboss. I'm going to hide the emboss for now, and I'm going to select everything. That's what I did for my first one here. Clicked OK. And then this is how it looks. Oh, actually, I think I maybe didn't select everything, because what it's doing here is it's just going to emboss the outline of everything here. But you could machine just that area. If you want to machine everything except for that, you could do that. That'd be pretty cool. But I'm going to machine different areas than this. I'm going to go back into geometry. Instead of everything, then I'm going to select the outside profile. So it's going to emboss all of this, and I'm going to avoid embossing this area here with his feathers, this main area here of his head, and maybe just this area of the eye for now. Let's see how that looks. And we'll do the beak too. Oh wait, that's most of everything there. That's oh, I think what I did was not the outside profile. So let me deselect the outside profile. Let's try that. Yeah, it looks okay. Oh, I remember what I did now. Okay, this is subtracted, this is added. Okay. So with this geometry, sorry about that, I turned off the emboss. I selected everything except for the outside profile. So I'm going to turn that off, deselect it. Oh, yeah, that's fine. And click OK. And now I can add more to everything in between, or I can subtract from it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, going to go to emboss regular, and I'm going to select everything for this one, because now I'm embossing everything in between what I just selected. I'm going to go to the top, I'm going to subtract from it, click OK, and then that's how I created this sort of wavy effect where I've got some areas extruded up, I've got some areas extruded down into the stock, and yeah, some of this is a little jagged, these corners here. Again, and, he's looking pretty mean with all these jagged edges on top here. Looks pretty cool, I guess, but if you wanted to make it softer, you can right-click on Emboss Model, go to Smoothing, and change the smoothing tool to make it a little smoother. Now, all of this down at the bottom is smooth, but up towards the top, you have the beak that's pretty sharp still. You've got the top here, his eyebrow looks pretty sharp. His eye, this corner looks sort of folded in, that I don't really like. If I want to smooth that out, we have an individual smoothing tool as well by right-clicking on Emboss Model and going to Sculpting. So that's the option right above Smoothing, where I can go to the top, and you can see I can change the diameter here, and I can go to Smooth for the method. Deposit, I believe, add stock. Remove stock away, and then Smooth is your smoothing tool. You can change the diameter of this smoothing tool. It's pretty cool. It's sort of like a spotlight going around your stock here. You can change the diameter, and you can change the strength of the smoothing tool here. So when I'm going around the stock, I can click and hold and drag my mouse button to smooth out some of this stuff here. So if that area that I didn't like, the eyeball I want a little smoother specifically, I can just click and drag. And there is an undo option here. So if I want to see the changes first, and if I want to hide the geometry, I can do that. I can hit undo last operation, and it'll show me what's been changed. Redo last operation if I want to keep the changes, and then click OK. So that's all good. Jim, you asked, does the undo button work with Bobart? Oh, good question. So no, the undo at the very top is going to be for your CAD geometry. So if you've made any changes with your wireframe, if you've added geometry, that's where your undo and redo at the top here works for your CAD functionality. We're in Bobart, which is a little different. You could see the smoothing tool has an undo option. And you also have, if you want to delete any of these functions here for Emboss, you can always highlight them, hit delete on your keyboard, or you can temporarily disable them by right-clicking, hitting suppress, and then regenerating the emboss without that function showing. So yeah, good question. The undo and redo at the very top of the screen of BobCAD is only for CAD functionality, but we do have an undo and redo option in each Bobart function as well, separate to the CAD undo and redo at the top. So other than that, yeah, so that's why that's a good thing to be cognizant of. There's not an undo button. If you created this emboss and you made changes to it, you sort of have to remember what geometry selected last time so that you can select new geometry, because you don't have an undo option there necessarily. Other than that, it's looking pretty good. What I like doing is just showing how we can do, I'll move over to what we have with this one, essentially the same thing here. And we can go to the cam tree. And what I did for this other milling operation with this stock here, I made sure that the machine setup is at the top of this stock. I had to add a little bit of stock because I embossed it up above C0. So my stock is up at the top here, and I'm machining these areas to get to the proud section here of the relief, the add section of the relief, and then the subtract section is down into the stock. So I basically just right-clicked on Machine Setup 1, went into Mill 3-axis, and did some 3-axis milling operations. This is in our 3-axis Pro, offering advanced rough and an equidistant toolpath, just going to be sort of spiraling into these areas of the subtracted area of the stock. But yeah, use a 1/4" end mill, use an adaptive roughing toolpath for my roughing here. Scroll down to the tool here, use an 1/8" ball end mill, and did a step over of 5 thou, going back and forth across the stock here. And we'll take a look at this one with our simulation. Bob, good question. Could you have a picture of a part? Could you make a part without going through the process of drawing the part? I've gotten that before. It's not as easy as easier said than done there. What you first have to be aware of is you need a good background, because if you've got a shadow of the part, if you've got maybe I've had customers take a picture of it on top of carpet, it's going to try to vectorize the carpet too. So you want to, maybe like a white piece of paper, printer paper, you put your part on, you can take a picture of it. You got to take a picture straight down on it so that there's not a shadow for your part. And you also have to be cognizant that when you're taking a picture of it, you can't set your dimensions. So when you're taking a picture of it, it's like 12 by 8 or something like that. So when you bring in the image into Bobart, it will vectorize, but then it could possibly be a good profile of your part there, but then you will have to dimension it out. You can do it by scaling it up or scaling it down to make the exact dimensions of your part. So it can be done, but I don't really want to give you too high of hopes there for creating part files right from an image, because specifications like that are very difficult to go by from an image there. Bobart, I normally say, is more for artistic stuff like this, so that you're able to use like maybe a wood router or some type of milling machine to use a flat end mill to pocket all of this out, and then use a ball end mill and go back and forth and give us a great finish operation here for a relief of a bald eagle like this. But yeah, if you've got a part file, it can be very difficult, because when you go in, you saw the image here, it comes in as 1 inch by 1 inch. So it's going to be something like that it'll be brought in as. You can type in a basic X and Y size, but then you'll have to do some messing around with the scaling to scale the drawing specific to what you need there. So yeah, if you want to test it out, by all means, definitely try that out on your side. You can take a picture. Again, make sure it's got a good background. Put it on a white piece of paper. I'm talking about printer paper, not like notebook paper. You don't want any lines or anything like that. You just want a blank white piece of paper you can put your part on. Take a picture of it, write down on the part so that there's no shadow, and bring it in as an image from there. And then from there, you can, what I normally do with scaling, I right click anywhere here in the CAD workspace. I go to Entity Summary, which will give me the bounds in X and Y here. So once I've vectorized the part, it will give me what the size of it is in X. It'll give me what the size of it is in Y. And then you can do your math equation of scaling it. You've got a non-uniform scale where you can scale it in X, scale it in Y, give you a good idea of what you want. So if it's 5 inches for your width, you can type in 5 inches, divide by what you have. Say if it's 2 inches, it'll scale it by 2.5 there. That's how you can scale up your drawing from Bobart. So yeah, give that a try. Let us know if you have any questions with it, because it can be difficult getting a really good image and bringing it into Bobart that way from a part file. But yeah, let us know what you think of that. If you guys have any other questions, please let me know. We're going to get into embossing from an image automatically with that dog image there. So again, I went to Google. I Googled dog images, and over here on the right hand side, this golden retriever it looks like. I just right clicked on this image and went to save image as. And then on my other screen here, I went to a new file. I went to Bobart, and instead of right clicking on images to load the image for vectorizing, we have an emboss from image. The name escapes me right now. I had a customer. He wanted to create what they call a lithograph to be able to do a very basic embossing from an image automatically and be able to sort of have like a 3D engraving of it, basically, is a good way of describing it. You can right click on emboss model, and you can do that by going to emboss from image. Again, sort of like a lithograph, as one customer put it. If we right click on emboss model and go to emboss from image, I can type in the size of the stock that we're creating first. I think it was we'll do 8 by, I think it's 8 by 6. So I'm going to make it 6 by 8. So that it's a little bit taller for that dog image. And then I click OK. I right click on emboss model again, go to emboss from image, and then I can load the image here on the left hand side. And I can select the dog image here. I'm going to make that 6 by 8. And then click OK. And it creates the emboss of the image, sort of like a lithograph. You can see how you can create a milling operation. The ball end mill can follow along. I mean, look at the image of the dog is really cool. You can even see the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the fur even on the outside of the image there, the feet here. Really cool stuff. So if you've got a family photo or if you've got an image of your dog like this, you can bring it in and then you can do a milling operation inside of wood and be able to show that to your family. And, I think it's really cool. We'll go to, we can smooth it out a little bit again. It's a little grainy here. We can just right click on emboss model, go to smoothing, change the smoothing window size to smooth it out a little bit. Now the dog's even clearer to see, and if we look at it from a side view, it is extruding out a certain distance. In that emboss from image function, again, we can do add or we could do subtract to have the negative of the image of the dog. I really don't like the eyes in this one, so I'll change it back to add. And we also have the option in there under the add at the bottom here for your Z depth down at the bottom. The Z depth option is the option to be able to change the emboss. It's going up 100 thou for your emboss there. So I click OK. And yeah, what I did in this emboss for the dog was I did the emboss here. I went to the cam tree, went to a new job, created my stock. It's a little bit above the stock because of my emboss from image. I created the machine setup at the top of the stock there. I did 2 planar tool paths. So the first planar tool path went 0 degrees of this lace angle under the planar tool path. 0 degrees will go back and forth horizontally, back and forth across the stock. In my next operation, my lace angle of 90 degrees went 90 degrees up and down along the y-axis. So I can do both of those, to give me a really good finish cut. If I wanted to go at a diagonal angle, for example, go 45 degrees, I can hit 45 here. The only thing is that if your machine doesn't like going diagonal, I wouldn't recommend that. So we've got the first one going horizontal, the second one going vertical at a smaller step over here. We'll take a look at the simulation on this one. Comes out really cool. So I can run through it. It's going back and forth horizontally, and then it goes up and down vertically. I can look at it at a top view and let it refresh to show me the finished product here. Once it's done, look at that. You can actually be able to see the dog in it. Pretty cool stuff. So yeah, if you got your own dog, you want to bring the image in, you can create an emboss from it and create a 3D model like this. Mill it out in a piece of wood. Also, if you had, I've also showed like a family photo. You can do a 3D engraving of it like this here, and it'll come out really well. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff in Bobart that you're able to do here. We went over the oops. Let me get to the first setup we did here. We went into creating or importing the image here and creating the drawing by vectorizing the image to create the 2D wireframe geometry. You could save this as a DXF file if you wanted to, bring it into another software program. This drawing here, you can do a profile cut of this or the V-carve toolpath that we did in Bobart from the Bobart license. And then from the vectorization, from the drawing, we created the emboss of that eagle and cut that out. And then we went over and did the emboss from image. So from Bobart, we just went automatically emboss from image here. Selected the dog photo and embossed it, smoothed it out a little bit. And then we went into the cam tree and created a planar toolpath in one direction, a toolpath in another direction back and forth to create the 3D engraving from an emboss from an image automatically. So a lot of cool stuff in here. In Bobart, if you guys have any questions with the functionality in here, please let me know while I got you live. If you have any other questions or any of the other functionality like the swept with the leaf and things like that, that's going to be found under the help page and under Bobart tutorials. It shows you how to do the leaf, how to do some sign making with the swept profile and the other emboss functions here. Pretty cool stuff. So yeah, and then one other thing, as Bob mentioned, you can also, if you wanted to try it out, you can get a part, you can place it on a piece of printer paper, take a picture of it from the top down, make sure you don't have any shadows with it, and be able to try to vectorize that around the profile of the part. And then you'll have to dimension it out. But could save you some time with Bobart. Instead of sketching the drawing out, you can start with sort of a template like that from an image. But yeah, let me know if you guys have any other questions in the Bobart module here today. I'll wait around for another minute or two if you guys have any questions in the comment section. But thank you guys for viewing the Bobart module today. And we will be back in 2 weeks. So not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after. That will be July 3rd, the day before 4th of July. We don't have anything planned in terms of the module yet, so we normally send out a survey to your email. Please let us know what you guys would like to see in the next webinar. We want to make sure that these webinar sessions are tailored exactly to what you'd like to see here. What kind of machining you guys are doing, we want to hear about it so that we can help you guys out as best as possible. In the comment section, you also saw the tech support phone number and email address. Our email address is support@bobcat.com, and our phone number is 727-489-0003. If you guys have any questions, please let us know. We're more than happy to help. Just check the comments section one more time, see if you guys have any questions before I log off here. And again, thank you for viewing the webinar live today with Bobart. Hope to see you in the next webinar, July 3rd. Thank you again, and have a great day. See ya.